Hello there, 6th grade. Welcome to section 625. This is the last section of chapter 6 before we jump into the closure. As promised, this should be a much shorter video than the last one and will consist mostly of homework help. There is one major topic that I want you to cover on this, and that is specifically to if you are given an expression in terms of x, then how do you change that expression into a number if you are told the new value of x. There's a very real chance that you've already seen a lot of these, and I apologize if this is super easy review, but it's going to be pretty straightforward. 6-111 is going to cover a lot of the same topics that we did in the homework. It even says use the perimeter and area expressions that you found in problem 6-106 in order to answer all of these questions below. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these over to my whiteboard so I can work on that here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this, and what I want you to see first of all is that these are the exact same problems as your homework. If you did the homework already, that's going to be super easy. If you didn't, then you're going to get a free answer to your homework here. So I'm going to look specifically at this first one, part A, or the first shape here. And then it says to take the perimeter and area expressions that you found in the homework to answer these questions. So I'm going to start with the perimeter using the same topics that we did before, the same way we did it. I'm going to label all of these. This is x, 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 and x. And then each of these is 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, my perimeter can be written as 4x plus 4. Just by combining like terms ahead of time, you should have already had this from your homework. And my area expression is specifically all of these tiles together. So this is my x squared tile. There's one of them. So my area is x squared. Plus, there is a single x tile, and then there is one unit tile. So you've got an area that is represented as x squared plus x plus 1. Okay. Now, this part A is asking you to determine the perimeter and area if x equals 5. Okay. If x is equal to 5. So I take the expression for perimeter that I was given or found, and I know that the expression can be written as 4 parentheses plus 4. Okay, again, I'm just using this exact same expression that is up here. And instead of x being an x, I'm going to write it as 5. This means that my perimeter is 4 times 5, which is 20, plus 4, which is 24. In the second part of this, you've got an area. You have an area expression equals. I'm going to again write the x's as parentheses. This is going to be the lifesaver for you. I know that it's super easy and the numbers are nice right now, but anytime you see an x in an expression or a variable, I strongly recommend replacing that with a set of parentheses before doing any additional math. Now, we were also told that x equals 5, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 5 into each of these. This first term, 5 squared is not 10. Okay, 5 squared is 25. So because it represents 5 times 5, which gives me 25, plus 5 plus 1. Again, just keeping all of those consistent gives me an area of 31. Now, you can't leave the area and perimeter as just 24 and 31 because those are ambiguous. It's not 24 miles or 24 feet or 24 cheeseburgers or whatever. This is strictly 24 units for perimeter. And when you're dealing with area, it is units squared. So that's my area, that's my perimeter. I would like, as your practice for this, to do at least part A for these next two shapes, and ideally do part B as well for all three, where you go ahead and you plug in the x value to each of those three expressions. So it's very straightforward once you have the expression like the 4x plus 4 or then the x squared plus x plus 1, and then you move on from there. That is the main idea on the classwork that I would like to do for you. Everything else, I think, is something that you're going to pick up on later, and it's not that big of a deal to skip it today. So 6-115 is exactly like the topic that I just went over. You need to write an expression only for perimeter, and then after you have the perimeter expression, you are simply plugging in the x's in order. So after you have the perimeter expression, you are plugging in the x values. So this one, I've got a length of x, 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 and x across the top. And then I'm going to count up all of the unit tiles, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is actually the exact same 4x plus 4 expression that we already did. So here you just plug in 7 for that. 4 parentheses plus 4. Pop the 7 in there, get 28 plus 4, which is 32 units. And again, we're dealing with perimeter, so my answers are in units, not in units squared. So I just would like to have that there for you to go over. And then the next part on here, you've got to arrange the numbers from least to greatest. Again, if you're not super comfortable with this, you can make them all into decimals if you would like, and then arrange them accordingly. 6-117, you do not have to submit anything written on this. I would like you to write it down on your own paper, and then when you enlarge or reduce it by the following ratios, what that means is you take the length of the side and multiply it by those values. So as an example, this first shape, right, I'm going to look at just this one side right here, originally has a length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So this length is originally 6. If I scale it by a factor of 3 over 1, I do that by taking 6 times 3 over 1, which is just 3. 6 times 3 is 18. So when you redraw this shape and you put it on your own paper, this left side will be 18 units tall, and then the rest of it will be 3 times bigger. It's just a matter of scaling it appropriately. You can use graph paper for that. It will help a lot. If not, maybe use a ruler and do centimeters, or do your best. When you scale it by a factor of 2/3, this side was originally 6, and I multiply it by 2/3. I'm multiplying fractions, so I can simply put it over 1. 6 times 2 is 12 over 3, which means this new length is 4. So when I draw it on my paper again, it's going to now have a length of 4 across the top. Okay, or 4 across this left side. So this will indeed make it smaller for you. Okay. On this one, it says you have a pasture that is 0.65 square miles. One dimension is 0.4. So draw a rectangle. Interesting. It does not explicitly say that it's a rectangle, I don't believe. Oh, no, it doesn't. So yeah, pretend it's a rectangle. It's not some weird shape like a triangle. So if your area is 0.65 units square, or square miles, and then the length on one side is 0.4, what math problem you're doing is you are taking the 0.65 is equal to 0.4 times some other number. When you don't know the number, we call it x. And because to find it you multiply, the opposite is divide. So you can do this a few ways. You can do 0.65 over 4, or 0.4. Or you can do long division, where you do 0.4 goes into 0.65. You could also take this 0.65 over 4 expression and move the decimal, which is the same as timesing by 100 over 100. But in the end, you're going to have 650 divided by 40 when that decimal gets moved. Or 65 divided by 40, sorry. And then you're going to get the actual answer from there. However you want to divide this is up to you, that's fine. This is how to arrange numbers from least to greatest. That should be pretty straightforward at this point. Again, if you want to convert them all to decimals, that's fine. And then this one is appropriately labeling the coordinates. So a lot of people mess this up. Whenever you label coordinates, you have an x and then a y together. And the x value always goes first. If you forget, you sing your ABCs, and in your alphabet, it's W, X, Y, and Z. X comes before Y in the alphabet, so it comes before Y in the points. So the X is left and right. So if I'm labeling point A, I have gone nowhere left and right. So my first coordinate is 0. And then I have gone up 6, which means my coordinates are 0 and 6. And then continue that for the rest of these. Again, if you go left or down, it is negative. So my coordinates for D, for example, would be -1 for the first value because I've gone left 1. Then you go down by 6. So I put -6 there. Okay. That about wraps up 625. The next video is just going to be briefly covering some of the closure questions, but all the answers are in the book, so I'm going to just have you do most of those on your own. Good luck, 6th grade.